everybody. This is Dr. Gina, and we're on part 2 of What Are the Voices That You're Listening to? And I have a special guest here, Terry Hanner. She works for me, and she was actually kind of going over this videotape, and all of a sudden she was like, oh my God, you are in my voice. And I'm like, that's great. Let's just have her come on, and let's talk a little more about the voices in your head. So Terry, what was coming to your mind?
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. As I was watching this video, I was just actually had been hearing your voice, and I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I've heard your voice all weekend, and it was a great weekend. I had a lot of things going on, a lot of changes, but it was just amazing because I was exactly what you were saying. I was hearing your voice, and I could hear my mom voices, and I could hear my sisters and my friends, but most of all I heard you, and just so many of the things that I have been learning as I've been working here, and we're having just this beautiful opportunity to work with you, and it was just so amazing how, like, I come across this, and then here it is, I hear you talking to me.
Well, I had a lot of people say that. But one thing I did not mention when we were doing our last session was oftentimes significant people that we allow into our head that we believe are good influences, we will hear their voices, especially when the time where we're deciding we're going to rewrite our script and we're going to do something different. So apparently you gave me permission to be in your head.
I did. We've got this bond. I've got this trust for you, and I think that that's been the biggest thing, is learning to trust whenever you've been through some adversity. And so I do trust you, and I have just a great compassion for your wisdom and knowledge that you're able to share with me. And so I really enjoy the opportunities whenever I get to that moment of clarity, because it's very clear that I get to hear your wonderful voice that continues to lead me in the right direction.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit too about what are the influences we have on other people. So we think about, giving someone else permission because we decide to trust them, but how important then is your voice to other people that develop trust in you?
Well, I think that for me personally, that's a great question. It's been really difficult for me to trust, but just in my journey of rewriting my script, which is, I'm not going to lie, it's been a little difficult, but whenever you gain the tools and that knowledge to know the direction that you're going to take in order to rewrite your script, it can be hard, but it is so rewarding in the same time. And so just being able to hear your voice, and then I have that opportunity to stop and think about it and pay attention. Whose voice is this? Is this clear, good information that I'm hearing, and which direction am I going to go with it?
So what are the challenges that you have sometimes when you're listening to those voices and trying to stay on this new script?
I think we all have challenges. For me personally, those ideas, like you had mentioned in your previous video about, reverting back to maybe some of our old qualities, some of the things that were comforts to us in that primitive side. When you live in a fight or flight world, it's easy to fall back into those addictions like alcohol or just doing nothing. So that's been a challenge, but it's also been very rewarding because I've gained a lot of new things in my life that I enjoy doing. I've enjoyed doing them for a long time. I just haven't done those things. So I find that I'm able to do those things now.
Okay, so I'm listening to you say I differentiate between the voices. I hear those old voices. So I want to think about, what voices have you identified in your head that have really helped you on this next leg of your journey?
I'm really glad that you asked that question. My mom has been a huge influence. I hear my dad a lot. My dad passed away actually 20 years ago in December, and there's some wisdom that he's always shared with me That just those little words, you know, that people say all the time whenever you're growing up. You know, just if somebody jumped off of a bridge, are you going to jump after them?
No, those little motto
That-
statements.
yeah. And so, you know, I hear some of those little quirky things that my parents used to say. But hearing your voice, it's you're giving that opportunity to redirect. And so whenever I do hear those things that you've said to me in a moment of what is happening in my life, it's beautiful because I can stop
Yeah.
and actually listen and then, you know, talk myself through the situation.
So if you have old voices from a really, really young age that were, say, not real good voices that, you know, just really hurt you, those become really big files and those just cycle in your head. So you actually have to sort of renegotiate new voices and like shut the door, keep out the devil. So you got to kind of shut the voices and start listening to the new voices that match what you want
Exactly.
your voices to
You're
say
exactly
to you. And you know, I do hypnotherapy too, and part of hypnotherapy is listening to voices that are cued for the things that you want to say to yourself. So when you think of things that hurt you, voices that, and you don't mention names, but just, do you have any sort of things that have gone through your head that are critical that you have to recognize those are not good voices?
Absolutely. And I think from, you know, coming from trauma and, you know, a kind of a checkered past, I think for me personally, that's been a really big process, and but it's been a really big thing that I've overcome is when I hear those voices, I immediately shut them down. I recognize it, I hear it, and I shut them down, and then I just redirect myself onto something that's positive and that's helpful.
So as we've gone through this, you know, the first video was like just even realizing you have a bunch of different voices, and then taking the idea of the primitive brain, recognizing it's not really going to move you to your higher self, realizing who has spoken into your life that is good, wanting to match that in the present, find other people that match that, and then at this point, hopefully you've learned some about the voices in your head and you can begin to take some charge over that. This is Dr. Gina. Thank you, Terry, for being here.
Thanks for having me.